unit begins in 1527.
You could mistake Rudy Wiebe for a pastor. His eloquence, knowledge of the Bible, and theology degree make him a good candidate. But today, he's not delivering a fiery sermon. He's doing what he does best, telling stories. And in many ways, Rudy Wiebe's story is the story of his people.
My physical and spiritual ancestors are the people known as Mennonites. In my mother tongue of Mennonite Low German, not a book existed in my day. It was an oral language, spoken only by us as far as we knew.
The story of the Mennonites is one he's been telling his whole long and award-winning career. And at 72, he's acquired a lot of wisdom and experience to help other aspiring authors along the journey.
Small as it may be, write your own place, write your own people.
Rudy Wiebe's place was a small Mennonite homesteading community in northern Saskatchewan.
The community in which I lived, they were all basically poor subsistence farmers, right, trying to make a living. And if the whole community is like that, then there is no one who triumphs over anybody or dominates anyone. They're all in the same boat together. And they were people of faith. The church was, the Mennonite Brethren Church was sort of the core of the community.
The stories of his childhood make up his most recent book, which won the prestigious Charles Taylor Prize for nonfiction. Although he grew up in an isolated community, his world soon expanded through books.
As a child born there, I didn't know any other world. The world that I began to know that was different was through reading books, the few books that were in our one-room school library.
He read everything he could get his hands on, from the Eaton's catalog to the Bible. But no one ever thought he would become a writer.
Well, I was the first in my family actually to go past grade 9, because everybody else was stopped by the fact that, well, not only the fact that there was no school to go to, but also you get to be 15 or 16, you have to go to work to help support the family.
It wasn't until a creative writing course at the University of Alberta that he discovered he could write. His teacher and mentor was the legendary professor F.M. Salter.
And he was the one that said to me, look, maybe you're the person that can write a really good novel about Mennonites in Western Canada. And why don't you do it for an MA thesis in my, under my supervision? So there again, it was this wonderful guidance, as I see it now, that this was available to me. So I could get a master's degree in English by writing a novel for a thesis, and I did.
That novel was Peace Shall Destroy Many, published by McClellan and Stewart, the first English novel ever written about Mennonites, and one that ruffled a lot of feathers for its brutal honesty.
I'm very happy about many of the things that Mennonites stood for and in the world, and their history of wandering and flights, because of their principles, right? I mean, this, I think, is a marvelous ancestry to have, heritage to have. But that doesn't mean to say that everything is wonderful.
The novel put Wiebe on the writer's map, and he went on to win 2 Governor General Awards for fiction for his novels The Temptations of Big Bear and A Discovery of Strangers.
Winning awards is problematic in the arts because, it's sort of like going into a garden and saying, well, this rose is more beautiful than this daffodil, which is crazy in a certain way. And, I've lost a lot more awards than I've won, if you put it that way. But I don't like looking at art that way, as winning and losing, right?
But Wiebe has never written for the accolades. It's a compulsion that drives him, even a calling.
I'm a Christian who writes. And I've never pulled any punches about that. Everybody, in the Writers Union knows this. I've never been, as far as I know, I've never been discriminated against because I consider myself a Christian who writes from a Christian point of view.
And he's not alone. This audience is full of aspiring Christian authors, and he's here to give them some advice and inspiration.
Each of us has a particular name. We live a particular life. It is only out of both that we can write. So, our topic tonight is daring to write your own place.
But while Wiebe may be a role model to many, These writers have a bigger inspiration to draw from.
The wonderful thing is that Jesus was a great storyteller, right? A magnificent storyteller, and so I'm following in his footsteps.
He says there's a reason Jesus told stories.
You don't teach people much by proposition, by statement and logical, especially not life matters. The kind of delightful mystery of the human mind is not dominated by logic, but it's dominated by something else. And that something else can be gotten at by stories, I think, far better than logic.
Scribble, scribble, scribble.
And while Rudy Wiebe has gone on to tell many stories of other people and places, he has never wandered far from his Mennonite roots.
And one of the reasons we lived in Lendrum, in Edmonton, as long as we have, is the Lendrum Mennonite Church, which is a very warm and caring community, which has seen us through a lot of difficulties in our life. You live long enough, life throws you all kinds of things, right?
And
there have been many hardships in his life, including the suicide of his son. But throughout, he's hung on to faith.
Faith is something that you struggle with and work with all your life, and it changes. And it's not that this is something like that, and it's bound that way, and it's just like sort of like sitting like a block in your life. No, it's something that grows and changes, and your comprehension develops. But the basic matter is of being a disciple of Jesus has not fluctuated.
as writers, we must pursue words with extreme care. Words are all that we have to build with.
And while Rudy Wiebe is a master story constructor, his own story is still a work in progress. One that can only be told page by page, chapter by chapter. In Guelph, Ontario, Denise Lottie, 100 Huntley Street.